In Rome, the piazzas serve as the backbone of public life. They are the habitable voids of the city that create a network of public spaces where people can stop and rest as they navigate the winding streets. In the ancient city, the inhabitants would live up in the hills and gather down in the Roman Forum, the void in the landscape. Now, people come down from their apartments on the upper floors and gather in the piazza, making them an instinctive and almost natural element. A piazza is the city on a smaller scale. Now, the voids are being redesigned to give the city back to the pedestrians. However, one may wonder if the designs were ever effective and conserved in the essence of the original piazza. Are they successful? What is the difference between the imposed order and actual use?
Piazza di San Silvestro is a buzzing piazza in the historical center of Rome. 2 Renaissance buildings, a grand post office, and the Basilica di San Silvestro watch over 3 of the space's edges. The other edge dissipates into its sister piazza, Piazza di San Claudio. The facades create a sense of balance and harmony, as if each element flows from the same organizing principles. People move constantly along the paved pathway that leads from the bus stop in Piazza di San Claudio and out into the city. The space is defined by 2 large seating elements. The piazza is very close to the Piazza Colonna, as well as 1 block away from the busy Via del Corso. An entrance to the Galleria Alberto Sordi is visible from the piazza, creating a visual connection between the 2 public spaces. People sit in the sun along the benches and snack on the steps of the church. The taxis idle in the taxi line, one eye on the tourist by the newspaper stand.
Piazza Sempione, located in the Monte Sacro district in the northeastern edge of Rome, has a far less organized first impression. Ex Palazzo Pubblico, now known as Municipio, dominates the space. The eastern edge is a jumble of mini buildings. The western edge contains a building with a small but busy bar and a church with a grand staircase. Although there is a row of buildings making up the southern edge, the busy Corso Sempione is the functional boundary of the piazza. This piazza is never empty. A gaggle of children slowly grows in size as parents stop to chat. Chalk drawings and confetti show remnants of a celebration below as an old woman smokes out of her window above. A crowd in their Sunday best gathers on the church steps for a baby's baptism.
The thriving citizen life on these piazzas didn't exist a decade earlier. Both Piazza San Silvestro and Sempione were dominated by parking lots and bus stops until a new design was retroactively applied. The municipality hired architects to create intentional piazza designs rather than just letting them be negative spaces.
San Silvestro's new piazza is dominated by 2 seating elements, an oval and a rectangle, broken into quarters to allow pedestrian paths in between. A pathway cuts between the 2 seating areas, and most pedestrians pass through here. The seats are packed with life at all hours. People rhythmically flow in and out of the arriving buses and disperse. Piazza Sempione's renovations were far smaller, but also feature a strip of seating near the bus stops. Crosswalks paint a clearly defined path, except nobody uses them. A woman on her way home from the grocery store carves her own path through 3 lanes of traffic rather than wasting time looping around. Children laugh and play football in the piazza. Pedestrians meander freely in such a defined space.
Piazza San Silvestro's central path and geometric-shaped seating serve as axes defining the void, a formal move in a formal space. This long side of the oval appears to intersect the post office. The side entrances to the oval must align with the grand doors on either side. The center pedestrian road clearly stems from the old basilica in the center, but it doesn't quite align. The more visitors seek to find alignments, the more they realize almost every axis in this space falters. But despite this, the average passerby would never notice the asymmetrical facade or buildings lack right angles because of these things are perceivable at the human scale. Piazza Sempione has a clearly defined symmetry. The main pedestrian area is a mostly rectangular shape that curves on the edge with the Municipio building. The urban furniture is also symmetrical and follows a clearly defined logic of the space. The Chiesa Santi Angeli Custodi looks directly onto the center of the road, where a statue of the Madre di Dio gazes across the bridge. This axis can now only be experienced in a car, restricted to a one-way street landing away instead of towards. This axis did not come to be by chance. Piazza Sempione was designed as a destination, an end to Corso Sempione as it crosses the river and the primary political center of the master plan of Città Gerlano Aniene from the 1920s. The old piazza, without the presence of the car, was unified and belonged to the people. Nowadays, some of that unity has been reborn, but it still distinctly reads as two piazzas with a road splitting them despite a unified name. The two spaces are different in the way that order has been imposed. Piazza San Silvestro was carved out of the existing city fabric, before having a sense of order imposed much later. This led to many strange axes and alignments. Sempione was built with an order in mind. The space was made before the surrounding buildings, so there was nothing to compete with the dominating force of the Municipio building.
San Silvestro is an undeniably tragic space, dominated by elements of symmetry and rational geometries despite the minute misalignments. Most of its buildings have logical Renaissance facades, and all, except for the Basilica di San Silvestro, are roughly the same height. The seating elements are arranged to create clear axes. Even the stores are more formal, with high-end brands like Rolex and Cartier in the windows. The ordered nature of the space influences how people move through it. Although the piazza is lively, it is structured. Upon arrival at Piazza Sempione, the eye of the visitor is drawn to the Municipio towering over the piazza. Its rhythm and symmetricality in isolation seem to suggest that this is a tragic space. The comic nature of the piazza is quickly obvious nonetheless, with shifting heights and depths that shape borders of the square and cast shadows upon the street. The different buildings are disconnected in material and design, resulting in a facade of clustered elements. The pedestrianized area of the piazza is a stage, with the Municipio as the backdrop. People enter through the arches from the left and right of the building, like actors from the wings. The inhabitants act out the theater of public life on their stage. The architecture of the piazza is the set, but the people make the play. When comparing them, the respective theatrical qualities of these piazzas seem almost ironic. Piazza San Silvestro is a centralized piazza that was carved out. It is a resulting space, a negative one. One would expect it to be comic. On the other hand, Sempione was planned and built prior to the buildings around it. It should have become a formal and tragic space. Yet now San Silvestro reads as tragic, while Sempione reads as comic, tricking the minds of those wondering how these spaces came to be.
In the Piazza San Silvestro, the post office and the smaller Basilica di San Silvestro make up the most dominating facade. The facade is symmetrical and follows a consistent rhythm. Details simplify upwards from carved bricks to large intricate windows to medium ones to plain ones before ending back at a dominating clock, ticking over the piazza. The aligned top of the church contributes to this formality, with its tall setback bell tower almost reading from afar as the same height as the post office. In Piazza Sempione, the western edge draws the eye. This comic facade, composed of what appear to be four very different buildings, creates a picturesque view. Bright pinks, oranges, whites, and browns contrast with the bright green of plants on the roofs and the blue reflection in the windows. An already staggered rooftop silhouette is further enunciated by chimneys, bells, and new mechanical systems. The paint of the right tower has worn off, showing the gray stone underneath, but leaving behind a faded orange gradient. The most dominating program in the space, the post office, is the most subtle, tucked away into the corner.
After spending just an hour or two in one of the piazzas, a visitor might feel like they have watched dozens of moments in the lives of strangers. A baby practices walking, an old man reads the newspaper in front to back, a young couple talks in the shade of a building. Some people move quickly, some stop and rest. The piazza is the park of the city.
A piazza is successful if it contains the theater of urban life and is functional space for the people who use it. Children frolicking, even the graffiti on the walls, make the piazza what it is today. It fosters a sense of community and habitation. Our group cannot dictate the way public space is used no matter how hard they try. If an imposed order is practical in day-to-day life, then it will be followed. If not, then the inhabitants will create their own order. The citizens are the true owners of the public spaces. The differences between an imposed order and its actual use are irrelevant in the end, so long as the spaces is used of one inclusivity and connection. The people make a piazza successful.